All right, let's talk about 25 trading resolutions for 2025 and beyond. And I went back and I found this presentation from 2019. I updated it a little bit, and I just found it fascinating. Some of the things I was talking about back then, of course, the same things that I talk about now, and it was some really good stuff. So let's just get into it. One thing I want to think about or talk about before we get into it is that there's a homostasis, if I'm saying that correctly. But we reject big change, okay? And I've often given the example of some friends of ours, and we now find out if they're dieting before we visit them. And of course, they're dieting again, so we're going to probably back off on hanging out with them a little bit. They go on these crazy diets, usually around this time of year, and then they're no fun to be around. They're always crotchety and not drinking, and not that you need to drink to have fun, but with these people, they do. Anyway, so and then we'll see them like 3 weeks later partying like rock stars with their other friends. It's like, well, how come we get the crotchety, peckish version, and their friends get the party version? But the point I'm trying to get to, and believe it or not, I have one, is we have a homostasis about us. And I guess I should have practiced that word before I went live, but I just thought of it in my head. And we can't take big change from a neurological standpoint. And that's one of the little secrets of trading. It's not a secret, is there's a neurology that's working against us. And that's something I get into quite often. And you just can't make a big change and say, okay, I'm going to make a big change and that's it. I'm going to diet, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to do all these things. But you can make a small change, okay? And that's kind of where I'm headed with these million little things that I've been talking about and these resolutions, which sort of dovetails in with them. It's so funny, the New Year's crowd in the gym has already dissipated. And I guess they went home and got all sore and everything and realized that this sucks, But I'd be willing to bet if they just would have driven to the gym and done some very small amount of weight, just almost go through the motions of all the exercises and do that every day, I'd be willing to bet they wouldn't have given up so quickly. So the point I'm trying to get to is, if you want to make a big change in your life, and I'm not sure who said this, but it's in one of the articles that I wrote on my website, one of the random thoughts. But if you want to make a big change, make a small change, okay? And just do little things, and that's how you're going to get much better as a trader. So anyway, I kind of went off the rails there, but number one, I will only take trades when conditions are conducive to my methodology. And when I was thinking about whether or not I wanted to do this resolutions series for 2025, the first thing I saw when I saw this one here, I'm like, aha, yes, I'm going to do this, because right now is one of those times where conditions are not conducive to trend following. And people ask me all the time, well, Dave, what do you do when the market's not trending? Nothing, just bide your time. And I have been guilty of doing some S&G trading on the side and some other things. And of course, I'm looking at crypto and all those other markets. But for the most part, do nothing. Don't shift gears and try another methodology and try reverse to the mean and whatever else. Just stick to your methodology and just know when to sit in your hands. Now, you only want to trade when conditions are conducive unless you think you have the mother of all setups. So if I saw the mother of all setups tomorrow, today I didn't recommend any setups for my clients, but tomorrow if I saw the mother of all setups, even though the market's choppy and questionable at best, I would take it. Okay, and if you think you have a stock that's decent looking that could trade in lieu of conditions, or maybe a special, maybe it doesn't quite fit exactly into one of the weaker sectors, and you think it could trade higher in spite of the overall market, then by all means take it. Now there's some cases, and hopefully we don't get too far into this, hopefully the market comes back enough, but there might be some cases where a market is making a transition. So right now that transition would be from the longer term uptrend to a downtrend, and even though the market's still at fairly high levels, you might see something that looks really good. 2000, I know I've kind of beat the dead horse on this, but 2007, I remember in October, I couldn't find a long to save my life, and I had a plethora of shorts I was setting up, and I started recommending shorts, even though the market was making all-time highs. And I would apologize to my clients every time I put on another short. Well, we all know what happened after that, and it was kind of cool to ride that wave down. So the exception again would be if you think you have the mother of all setups, and of course, if you're trading some sort of transition. So here's the P's, and this is when I recommended HNST. So the market is just I almost said something inappropriate. A very small amount. My sailboat racing days, they get a little raunchy on the boat, but a very small amount. Some of you may know what I almost said. But you can see it's very close to all-time highs. The market, for the most part, looks like it's headed higher. So I recommended along there, and then I just look at the records, and I recommended along in NBIS a few days later. Now let's take a look at the market. You can see that the market right afterwards sold off hard, snapped back, sold off, rallied, dropped, and then snapped back again. And now we might be going back to one of those rollover modes. So it's been all over the place. And once the market starts doing that all over the place electrocardiogram thing, you need to make sure you're drawing your sideways arrows going back in time, okay? And take a look at that net price change. Where's the market now? Where was it a week ago, a month ago, 2 months ago, and then so on and so forth. So this is not a condition that's conducive for trading, at least now. It was back in mid-December. It is no longer for a trend trader, at least. Now, during this entire period of time, I didn't recommend any trades in my trading service. The database wasn't producing anything that looked exciting, and the market was all over the place. So it's like, you know what? Let's just listen to the database and let things shake out a bit. Now here's that HNST trade again, and you can see it pulled back, and one of the resolutions is to wait for an entry, obviously. And again, you can see it just kind of sold off and got kind of ugly, but luckily it didn't trigger. So here's a case where no capital is put in harm's way. So through all that mess that we just went through in the market, from the new highs to where we are now, all that electrocardiogram, no capital was put in harm's way with new positions, other than the NBIS was the only one that triggered, okay? So that's the only thing we have left in the portfolio now. And here's the NBIS. You can see it took off nicely, and the entry was 32.25, protective stop 23.25, IPT 41.25, and very wide stop in this particular one. That's what it called for. Now, when you look at the chart, that stop doesn't really look that far away from the price, but it's 8 points away or 9 points, whatever the case was. And the IPT, I don't know if you can see it, is up here off the charts, literally, or for some reason, people have become British lately. It drives my wife nuts, which is a short trip. That's another story. She didn't watch these, so I should be okay. She knows I give her a hard time, make fun of her. Literally, as these people say nowadays. I don't know why they do that. But anyway, you can see it took off nicely out of the pullback. We triggered in, hadn't quite hit that IPT just yet.